Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Felcroft Cast. It's a pleasure to have you all along this Tuesday evening. We've not been doing Arena Tuesdays for a while, so given that we did a whole bunch of laddering over the weekend and we took a little look into a Druid ramp deck yesterday as our Beginner Monday, New Player Monday episode, we're going to get back into Arena this Tuesday night. Arena Tuesdays have always been our Tuesday night showing, so let's jump in. We're doing a little something different this week. We are going to be trying to keep the pace moving as much as we can, but we're going to do a pick your own arena. So we're going to jump into an arena with a class that you, the folks out on Twitter and people who tune in, have nominated that we give a go. You guys have chosen Priest. Thank you very much. Priest is not the easiest arena class, but we can have some fun with it as well, so it should be a good laugh. Let's see what we can do. So I will be jumping along and trying to pick a theme and seeing what people in the chat fancy picking as well. So we're going to try and pick some kind of theme and then run this episode like we do. We draft a deck, we try and pick a theme, stick to some kind of theme as we go along, depending on what the cards throw us with an arena, and then we finally take it into a couple of games and see how we go. So first up, the Injured Blademaster. We've got some real solid core cards there. The Injured Blademaster shows up in many a constructed Priest deck. If you've watched the earlier episodes of this series, you will know that we played a lot of Priest. So hopefully he needs no introduction. For anyone who's new, just the very fact that he does 4 damage to himself is a little bit awkward, but he makes up for it with a nice low mana cost and really solid stats if you can heal up. Chat is in favour, thank you very much Tom in the chat. We will go for a Blademaster. The Shadow Madness, useful. A lot of people do play quite low attack minions. They try and hit early on in the arena with sort of lower mana curve and lower mana cost minions as well, so that wouldn't have been too bad. Second up, well, I don't have any weapons as a priest, so the South Sea deckhand is probably pretty much out. The Silence always comes in useful, or an early game taunt with the Frostwolf Grunt. I think that I'm probably going to jump for, unless anyone in the chat jumps in otherwise, the Frostwolf Grunt, just because the Silence, although it is nice and can be good situationally, just an early mana cost, pretty solid stat minion for the 2/2/2, and a taunt can always be handy, so let's use him to keep stuff off of us. We've not really had any cards in our first couple of cards that will give us a real solid indication as to what we want to play. So in this set we've got a mid-game taunt, solid in terms of the Fen Creeper. We've got a late game finisher really in the Core Hound, and we've got another early game taunt in the Freshwood Grunt. Because I don't know what's going to come up in terms of late game finishes, it's always nice to have something later on. I'm going to go with the Core Hound. Another Freshwolf Grunt for an early game taunt could have been quite solid, but I have a feeling we'll see some more of that come up later. Next card, we're on to number 4. There is a slight delay, of course, in between the stream that I'm doing and me seeing the chat. So, you folks in the chat, I am trying to keep up with you as best as I can. I will talk through the cards while it takes that little time to catch up. So here we have Ironforge Rifleman, that 1 battle cry of damage. I can probably do some damage to something. That's fairly solid. The heal with the Voodoo Doctor, well, if I'm taking damage that early in the game, could be useful. And then the Murloc Raider. If you see a load of Murlocs coming out, sometimes people get tempted to play Murloc decks, but Murloc and Priest don't really mix too well. There's no real swarming things that help out. I can't really buff my Murlocs sort of excessively or anything. It's not like a Shaman where I've got supporting totems. It's not like a Paladin where I might pick the Sword of Justice or whatever it's called, the one that lets you buff your minions each time. Really, there's no massively good selection there. I'm going to go for the Voodoo Doctor as a solid turn 1 drop that maybe will heal me on turn 2 or something similar. Some better options here. The Venture Co Mercenary is a nice mid-game swinger, but of course my minions costing more is not fantastic. Draggling Mechanic, just for the 2-for-1 mechanic, always very nice in arena. So the fact that I'm just getting 2 cards for the price of 1 there is good. And then the Fairy Dragon, that just so solid early game card. I don't have anything hugely solid in that range, so for the time being I'm going to leave the Swarming card alone. I'm going to go with the Fairy Dragon, just because that 2/3/2 so useful in so many constructed decks as well. Next card up, the Temple Enforcer. Got something a bit rare there. Friendly minion 3 health, that could be nice and reasonable in the late game. And then we've just got 2 so solid cards. So solid. The Ironfolk Grizzly is just a nice solid tank for its price. It's kind of like the slightly older brother of the Frostwolf Grunt, just 1 extra on every single stat. And it's a bear, and who doesn't like bears? Tauren Warrior, the Enrage. It will take damage in this format. +3 attack. I'm glad to see the chat agrees with me on the Fairy Dragon. Fantastic stuff, guys. Glad to see we're of one accord. And then Tauren Warrior, again, just so solid. That taunt, and then just the fact is, in Arena, you're likely to take some little damage. By turn 3, it's going to be great if they've got stuff that's swinging in and finishing you off. So chances are in Arena, this Enrage will actually trigger before this card dies, and suddenly it's a 5-2 or a 5-1. That could be swinging in and doing some really solid and chunky damage. So Temple Enforcer is nice for the heal. Tauren Warrior is also nice in that sort of 3 mana range. I'm just hoping that the chat catches up and expresses some kind of opinion. So, Tauren Warrior, let us do the consultation. Consult the Book of Armaments if we're going Monty Python Holy Grail style. I'm in a little bit of a dilemma. I'm torn here, probably between the Temple Enforcer and the Tauren Warrior. Let's see what people decide to fancy. And I mean, looking at my curve so far, while we wait for the chat to catch up just a little bit, we got a tank, we got a finisher, we've got some solid cards that we can get out in the first few turns. There's going to be some nice things dropping. That 3 health on a minion could be particularly nice, and then 666 is equally solid as sort of a mid to late game sort of damage dealer, finisher and trader as well for the Temple Enforcer, to keep the pace going, because the chat is taking a little time to catch up. I think I'm gonna go with the Tauren Warrior. No Warrior. You seem pretty confident in this one. I'd say Enforcer. I've gone with a controversial decision. It would be doing the damage in the early game. The reason I was flicking and tossing up and going for the Warrior was that pressure early on in Arena is just so valuable, and very often in Arena, and again, I'm no Arena expert, but I found that by the time I get to the late game, I've either been crushed or something similar. So let's put that down to personal experience. But the Enforcer, let's hope it comes up again. The 3 health addition is really solid as well. This is a tough decision as well. The Orkanite Soul Priest could really mess me up. In Arena, I'm going to be using my Priest 2 heal for quite a bit. I've got Mass Dispel. Am I going to see that many minions in an Arena situation with abilities I can silence? Not quite so sure about that. The Questing Adventurer. Soul Priest, says Tom, because I went against you guys' decision last time. I'm going to go for the Soul Priest. But Soul Priest, so solid, and just the fact is that as much as not being able to remove my heal may be a pain, the ability just to do loads of 2 damage in Arena, and the fact that there will be a lot of small to mid-range minions will be really useful. Soul Priest is strong in priest-constructed decks, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes here. Next up, we got a Stormwind Knight. I think I already know what I'm going to pick here, the Circle of Healing and the Harvest Golem. I'm not overwhelmed by Stormwind Knight in terms of its charging in stats. It does have some uses in constructed. The Circle of Healing, healing up all my minions, could be quite nice. I've got the Soul Priest, so I do have a combo there to clear the board. And the Harvest Golem is just ridiculously solid. 2 for the price of 1. You see it in so many constructed formats. So thank you very much, Lasky in chat. We shall go for that indeed. Next up, I've got some nice choices there as well. This is a very nice low to mid-range deck. Well, I have no weapons, so although the Spiteful Smith is a solid card in any weapon-bearing deck, and I would indeed think about it in an Arena if I had a weapon, in this situation, I just got no use for it. I'm a priest. How is that going to be coming up? Welcome, Uber Priester as well. Nice to see a few new folks there jumping into the chat. Just good to welcome you. Okay, so we've ruled out the Spiteful Smith for fairly self-explanatory reasons. Argent Squire, lovely to trade and just do a little bit of irritating in the early game. If there's nothing else, it's not a bad one pick. I think there's probably no decision in this one though, because the Acidic Swamp Ooze, destroying your opponent's weapon. I can use it as tech, and then in previous episodes of the Hearthstone Half Hour, we've talked about solid spine cards, those real solid neutral minions that are so useful in constructed when you're building decks for the ladder, building your own decks. And you know what, in a draft format, 2 mana for 3 attack and 2 health, and that overall solid ability, I'm just going to go straight up with the Acidic Swamp Ooze. Next up, we have some really solid choices again. I'm really thinking that after an initially wobbly start, although we're 10 cards in, we've got some nice choices here. We've got the Questing Adventurer, the Stampeding Kodo, and we have the Argent Commander as well, who's a cracking card. Questing Adventurer, in any deck you're playing cards. If I'm playing lots of cheap cards and cheap spells, a Questing Adventurer could get very ugly very quickly. Also seen in Miracle Road decks and other constructed decks where you're able to play a lot of cheap free spells and things like that. It's any card, it's not just spells, of course, unlike the Mana Worm for the Mage. So there's loads of ways I could buff that up if I've got lots of cheap cost cards to get it going really quick. The Stampeding Kodo, expensive. It's quite solid. It's a kind of a card that you use to trade stuff away with. A random minion with 2 or less has got a removal, but all in all I think that's quite mana expensive for our card. So between those 3 it's going to be a Questing or an Argent Commander. The Argent Commander, of course, that bubble, if I'm getting to turn 5 or turn 6, it's just solid and constructed. I'm tempted to really go with the Argent Commander here. Opinions also for the Questing Adventurer. The Kodo could do some, and of course if you look at the 5 and 6 mana range, always worth remembering your mana curve in Arena, as well as anything else. Decisions. I've got 1 vote for Commander, 1 vote for the Kodo as well, or Questing Adventurer. I'm going to toss up at this point in time. I don't really have huge amounts of 1s and 2s, so I can't play loads of cheap stuff real quick. I've seen 2 Questing Adventurers and I've ignored the first one. For the time being, I'm going to, just for removal's sake, I'm going to go with the Kodo. I may regret leaving that Argent Commander. Another nice set here. We've got Raid Leader, which will just buff everything. We've got Temple Enforcer, who we passed over in that first situation, and we've got the Reckless Rocketeer as well. So the Raid Leader will just buff everything up. Temple Enforcer, that 3 health heal minion coming in. I've got a 5 drop, I've got a 7 drop. I actually think I'm just going to jump in with a bit of Temple Enforcer, although the Raid Leader would be real nice for buffing up all of my minions, more damage across the board. I'm going to risk it and go with a Raid Leader. Good, I've had 1 vote in the chat backing me up. Thank you very much for backing up. Oh, and a Reckless Rocketeer. Reckless Rocketeer is lovely for charging in that damage, and it will let me do a trade. Hopefully I'm not going to regret that later. What have we got here? We've got a Fen Creeper. So again, that's the second time we've seen that cup, in terms of, you know, a real solid mid-game tank. Not quite so much attack, and then we've got a Divine Spirit as well, doubling a minion's health, a low drop, but could give me something very nasty in particular. Particularly one of my big minions in late game, for example, really buffing something up. Or the Priestess of Elune, which is just a solid drop for that mana cost and will give me that heal to my hero. Could be useful in the late game, can do some damage. I think between those 3, unless the chat folks express a preference, I'm edging towards Priestess of Elune. But again, mid-game taunt's not too bad either. It could be useful to see what we can grab there. There's 1 vote for Fen Creeper so far. 2 for the Creeper for the mid-game tank. Very well. Creeper it is. You say, and we obey. Next up, I think that there's a fairly obvious choice here. 3 Fen Creepers. Excellent stuff. So next up, we have the Bluegill Warrior. We have a Mind Blast and the Shadow Word Death. The Bluegill Warrior charging in for that cheap mana, swarming in early damage, early pressure. Pretty solid drop. Even if you're not running Murlocs, you can trade something away. All very nice. Mind Blast, Shadow Priest, 5 damage spell. Familiar, of course, to all you WoW players, but the Shadow Word Death, I am thinking that may win through here. And good on you guys, because I was favouring that one. You see it in constructed decks. It just lets you pick off. If someone drops a big minion, Shadow Word Death is keeping me in the game. And then we have Bluegill Warrior again. We have Mind Blast again, and then also an Archmage. So the Archmage, I don't have anything in this deck at this point in time, as far as I can see, that is doing spell damage. So there's no natural synergy at the moment. Given that I'm 13 out of 30 cards through, and you guys have been, the kind of stuff you guys have been picking along with me, there's nothing at this point in time that really is going to benefit from that spell damage on the Archmage, and given its mana drop, it's quite expensive for what it actually does. It's got solid health, it can do some, you know, reasonable damage for 4. So I'm in 2 minds about that one. We don't have anything as a 6 drop, so that might be worth taking a look at. Mind Blast, again, we've just explained, and Bluegill Warrior, we have just explained. 5 damage to the enemy hero, not too bad, really. Can do some stuff, and then the Bluegill Warrior is just another early drop to put some pressure on. So, in my mind, it's possibly a toss-up between the latter 2, but it depends. If we went with the Archmage, maybe we'd want to try and grab a few more minions with spell damage later in the game. Decisions. While we're halfway through, and you folks decide what you might want to go for. Let's take a quick look at what we've got so far. We've got Voodoo Doctor, so we've got a bit of health for a 1-drop, and a nice solid stat card. Removal of a weapon, solid stats in the Swampoos, solid card in terms of Fairy Dragon. 2 taunt, some removal for Shadow of Death for the late game. Harvest Column is a 2 for 1, lovely stuff. Blade Master for the heal, solid damage. Raid Leader for the global buff, and by global I mean everything on my side of the table, not true global. Tauren Warrior for this sort of trading ability, and because I just like it. The Organized Soul Priest for you guys in the chat very kindly picked for some tactical damage dealing ability. A mid-game tank in the Fen Creeper, some removal in the Kodo, and a late-game finisher in the Core Hound. We've had 1 vote for Archmage, 1 vote for Lion Blast, so Mind Blast it is, because P-A-R-T-Y, because I got it. And we don't have an easy decision actually in terms of here. We now have Mind Control, we've got the Stone Tusk Ball, we've got the Acolyte of Pain. So in draft, when you do not necessarily have the ability, obviously because you don't have the ability to be building your decks with all of the cards that you want, anything that offers you additional draw power in draft can be oh so valuable. Oh so valuable, and that is where the Acolyte of Pain is strong and constructed, when you can trigger what you want. But in terms of draft, even more valuable, because people, if they do some damage to it, it gives you additional draw power that you might not normally get otherwise in a drafted deck. That is the Acolyte's purpose in a nutshell. The Stone Tusk Ball, a 1/1/1 with charge, so a bit of early damage, a bit of niggling, removing of bubbles, chipping away at minions, all that kind of jazz. And the Mind Control, well, if we get to the late game, Mind Control could pretty much finish things up for us. We could be grabbing a really nasty enemy minion. A solid card, but will we live in Arena to see it being played? That is the challenge. Acolyte of Pain is short-term gain. Mind Control is trying to stick in for the long term and get some bits and bobs done. Lots of different benefits there. If we take a look at our mana curve, 1 vote for the Acolyte, and we've got 1 vote for the Mind Control. We're going to go as a toss of a coin with the Acolyte for that draw power. If you guys are split in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and take my dictatorship view on how things are going. So Acolyte in that case it is. Next up, what do we have? We've got a Southsea Deckhand again, as we've discussed. Weapon wise, that is not really going to be doing much for us. Second up, we've got Lord of the Arena, so a very, very solid late game card. The Taunt is good, you've got a big tank, 6 attack, 5 health, just oh so solid. Above all, a basic card, so if you're a new Hearthstone player, it's one you get access to pretty much straight away. Thirdly, Power Word Shield, buffing minions with health is good, drawing cards, also good. 2 very solid things to do with that. Can be applied of course to any minion in our deck, which would be absolutely lovely. We've got 1 vote for shield so far. I think I'm going to overrule the Southsea Deckhand because of the early charge ability, to make sure we keep going and keep ourselves as close to the half hour as possible. 2 votes for shield, 1 for the Lord of the Arena. Shield it is. Some of you getting overruled sometimes in the chat, a few challenges there. So next up we have the Wind Fury Harpy. We've got Power Word Shield, and we also have the Flesh Eating Ghoul. So in these options, the Wind Fury Harpy, Wind Fury of course means that you can attack twice in 1 turn, once you've got over your 1 turn of waiting to be allowed to attack. Your Summoning Sickness, as it will be called in Magic the Gathering or similar. So solid stat card, expensive in terms of mana for its attack and health stats, but it has Wind Fury. So there you go, 2 attacks for the price of 1. Power Word Shield again, we've gone over, and Flesh Eating Ghoul, an interesting pick here for 3 mana. Whenever a minion dies, gain 1 attack. Minions are going to be dying. We will be getting 1 attack. If you look at our mana curve, we've got a fair few 3 drops in terms of minions. We've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops in terms of 5 things that we can drop in terms of turn 3 actual pressure. So Power Word Shield, or Flesh Eating Ghoul, or Wind Fury Harpy. That's an interesting toss up between the 3. We'll play some countdown music while you guys in the chat digest what we are up to. If you are tuning in on YouTube, or wait for the chat to make decisions, you can tune in live every evening, 7:30 to 8 PM GMT or thereabouts, with us on twitch.tv/Failcraftcast, and we will be running these episodes similarly. Given that we know that you guys are jumping in and out, we're just going to jump in. I think that we're going to go with a Power Wedge Shield for some additional card draw power. So there we go. Next up, we've got Mind Vision, we've got Mind Blast, and the Gnomish Inventor. So, Mind Vision, grabbing a random card from your opponent's hand, could be wonderful, could be terrible. Priest, of course, do have these few cards that let you do various bits and bobs. Next up, we've got Mind Blast, which we've already gone through. And fourth, we've got the third. It's third, not fourth, because it's got 4 mana. We've got the Gnomish Inventor. Again, slightly underpowered stats, but they make up for it, or try to, with the battle cry of drawing an additional card. Not got huge amounts of 4-drops, apart from the Organized Soul Priest. Might be worth considering. Mind Blast. Let us throw some damage down on the enemy hero in the early game. A vote for Mind Blast has come in. Let us grab it in terms of keeping this draft moving. Next, we've got Circle of Healing. We've got Divine Spirits, and if you wonder why I'm tapping away and Holy Nova, it's because we're sharing these with our chat as well. Half of the ways through. So we've got some nice little drops we can probably have a look at here. Circle of Healing, that goes nice. Our Organized Soul Priest means we can actually do a table clear, because it will do damage instead of healing, which is quite powerful, and given that a lot of stuff in mana. Next up is Divine Spirit, doubling the minion's health for third Holy Nova. Damage, healing, power. You guys have picked it. Happy that you've done so, very, very solid. Let's get a Holy Nova in there. Shadow Madness, we've got Blood Sail Corsair, an Angry Chicken. That's probably not the easiest, well, not the easiest, not the hardest one to really draw from. Blood Sail Corsair, removing durability from the weapon. It's a 1-drop. Is our opponent going to have durability? They may have weapons. Angry Chicken, if you enrage, it gets 5 attack. There is actually a combo there. We could play a Power Word Shield on it to give it the 3 health, but of course you can only enrage if you're still alive, and the Angry Chicken only has 1 health. So it's, unless you can buff the health of the Angry Chicken, which we actually can, then madness it is. Gaining the control of that minion with 3 or less attack to the end of the turn is a solid choice. Next we've got Guru Bashi Berserker, we've got Thought Steal, and I think I know what the chat is going to choose already, and the Dalran Mage. So Dalran Mage, spell damage +1. We don't really have huge, well, we've got some more spell damage in terms of Mind Blast, so that will do a little but not loads. The Guru Bashi Berserker, a real solid draft card, just because whenever it takes damage it gains 3 attack, and it has a lot of health. If it takes 3 damage, it's suddenly got an additional, but sort of each time it takes sort of, note that it's not for each damage point, it's whenever it takes damage. So if it gets a lot of chip damage, it could get very, very nasty if single bits of damage are done to it on each occasion. Now if you just did a lot of damage in one go, it wouldn't trigger all the way up. Thought Steal, seen in Priest Constructed. Priest is having a tough time on the ladder right now. Thought Steal just lets you straight up copy 2 cards for 3 mana. So it's 2 draw for 3 mana. They may or may not be of use to you, depending on what opposing deck you are playing, of course. Sometimes you can get one things. Thought Steal it is, because the votes are flying in now. So next up we have Young Dragonhawk. We have Northshire Cleric, and I think I know what the chat are probably going to draft already, and Holy Smite. Dragonhawk is just a Wind Fury 1 minion, which you can do some training with. Northshire Cleric, what is there not good to say about this card? As a priest, if your stuff's damaged, you're healing it and drawing cards. So a real core priest mechanic for some crazy draw power. And then next up is Holy Smite, the direct damage 2 damage spell. We don't have spell power, but that is very, very handy. Northshire Cleric voted on by the chat. 1 for Northshire Cleric, 1 for Holy Smite. Deciding vote will go with a Northshire Cleric, just because of the draw. Next we've got Circle of Healing. This is like the 3rd Circle of Healing we've seen, so many of these. Northshire Cleric and the Ancient Brewmaster. Now, Circle of Healing we've explained, Northshire Cleric we've also just explained, and the Ancient Brewmaster, solid stats, and he also has quite a nice battle cry. You see him in some uses where people want to recycle their minions and their battle cry abilities. So he lets me pick up a minion, then I can play him again. Of course, if I play a minion again having picked them up, he will have removed, of course, all of the damage and similar things. Of 1 vote for Circle of Healing, interestingly. After, share these with the chat. We've got a vote for Circle of Healing. We've already had a Northshire Cleric. Given that that's the vote, we need to get playing. Let's get a Circle of Healing in there. Next up we have a Mind Vision. We've got an Iron Fur Grizzly, so that tank again, and a Voodoo Doctor. Mind Vision, as you just seen, we've got a Thought Steal. We took the Thought Steal, good stuff. Mind Vision, we've got a mid tank in terms of the Iron Fur Grizzly, and again another Voodoo Doctor for in terms of other bits and bobs. A heal as well, as we are 23 out of 30. This has been going on a little long, so let us keep gunning through. We'll put the countdown clock going, see what people fancy. I'm going to take a look and think, right, we've got some reasonable drops. I'm going to just go ahead with another mid-game trading tank. Chat agrees, the Grizzly it is, so let's grab that in. Mind Vision, Divine Spirit, and Elven Archer. 2 of those we've had already. The Elven Archer again. You've got that battle cry for a little bit of chip damage, given that this is a bit of a sort of maybe slightly less key decision. We've kept ignoring the Mind Visions. The Elven Archer for another low drop and a bit of trading might be quite interesting. Could damage our own minions to set up some heals even. Divine Spirit it is for the first vote in. 2 votes for Divine Spirit, so we've then got a Goldshire Footman, a Mog-Ushan, I always say Mog-Shan, it's Mog-Ushan Warden, and then the Abusive Sergeant. So, a turn 1 tank, a turn 4 tank, a Mog-Shan Warden. You know what, he's actually quite tempting to take. Not only do we not have a huge amount of 4 drops, but if we Divine Spirited him, a 14 health tank would require some silencing to get through. We have, however, got a good shout in the 3rd for the Abusive Sergeant as well, for that additional 2 damage, just for a bit of a charge in. To keep the draft going. Abusive Sergeant it is, given that's the first vote. We then have Elven Archer again, Temple Enforcer, and the Murloc Raider. I'm actually going to jump in this and grab the Temple Enforcer because we've overturned it twice and we weren't even sure second time whether we should or not. Now here's a one that I definitely need chat help with. We've got a Silverhand Knight, Temple Enforcer again, or an Inner Fire. That's sort of quite a nice decision. The Silverhand Knight is a 2-for-1 card. And 2/2 Squire is a very nice card that you can use to trade stuff off the table with as well. Temple Enforcer we've assessed. The Inner Fire is a lovely combo with Divine Spirit. You can buff something for double health and then change your minion's attack to be equal to its health. So you could have a very high health minion that suddenly has huge attack. It's a great way to create 10/10s, 14/14s and all kinds of ridiculously powerful cards that unless someone has got removal in a draft they will really struggle with. As someone's mentioned in the chat, Inner Fire would have been amazing with Mogshuan. Let's go with an Inner Fire for fun. 28 out of 30, we're almost there guys. Thank you very much for your patience, but I hope you can see that we're grabbing some bits. Inner Fire it is. We've got a Goldshire Footman, we've got a Priestess of Elune, we've got another Raid Leader. So the chat here, and it looks as though if you look by our mana curve, so much 1, 2, 3, but not huge amounts 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got a lot of early game pressure here, which is good to see. We've got some good buffs, we've got some very solid minions, a bit of spell damage, and some draw power. And welcome. We've got a few new people joining the track as well. It's good to see you. And we've got 1 nomination for the Priestess. If no one else nominates anything, Priestess it is. Priestess it is. And last but not second last, so we've now got a Murloc War Leader, a Blood Knight, and Molten Giant. Okay, so new cards here, so let's go through these. Well, the chat ruminate. The Murloc War Leader. If you're playing Murlocs, you want a Murloc War Leader. We're not playing Murlocs, but all other Murlocs with 2/1. If you are drafting a Murloc deck, then you would be overjoyed, oh so overjoyed to see the Murloc War Leader come up, and it would be a fantastic pick. I'm probably inclined against it a little bit inclined against. So that's probably going to be it. The Blood Knight. Blood Knight is if you see stuff with bubbles, it's ridiculous how quickly powerful that can be. remember that all minions losing Divine Shield is not just your own, it's your opponent's too. So if you'd maybe been playing a Paladin deck and had a bunch of stuff with bubbles, if a Blood Knight came up for a 3-drop, you could be gaining 3, 6, 9 health and attack. We've got 3 votes for the Mountain Giant, 1 less for each damage my hero has taken. That is true. The chat have fairly identified that I don't have Divine Shield, so it would be entirely situational based upon my opponent's draws. So that is our chat drafts. You say, we obey, drafted deck. So just before we jump into our game, let's have a quick review of the deck list. We have Circle of Healing for not only comboing with the chat drafted Organized Soul Priest, but also just healing up our minions as well. Inner Fire, interesting to see if that comes out. 2 Power Word Shields for buffs and card draw. Thank you very much, chat. That is absolutely awesome. Abusive Sergeant for some damage. Northshire Cleric for draw. Voodoo Doctor, heal and early game drops. Divine Spirit for doubling a minion's health. 2 Mind Blasts just because. The 6 Swampoo's removal, solid minion in Fairy Dragon, Taunt and solid minion, removal in Shallow Word Death, Thought Steal for some additional card draw, Acolyte of Pain for card draw, Harvest Golem for 2 for 1, nice 2 for there, Injured Blade Master for solid minion damage, and also can be healed and comboed with Northshire Cleric and similar, because he does damage to himself. If I heal him up straight after, I can maybe get some card draw from the Northshire Cleric. Iron for Grizzly, solid tank, Raid Leader for additional damage, Taunt Warrior for the taunt just because I fancied it, Shadow Madness, gaining control of an enemy minion to the end of the turn, Organized Soul Priest for tactical damage dealing, Holy Nova for just all-round damage and healing goodness, and of course the heal synergizes with my card that does damage to itself, my Northshire Cleric if I drop it down. Having looked at this deck, the second Northshire Cleric would have been awesome. So let's see whether that comes out in the wash or not. That might be an interesting decision by you guys. Fen Creeper, mid-game tank, Shadow Gladness. It's been a long day. I'm glad for the Shadow Gladness. That's now the new official name of Shadow Madness, Shadow Gladness. Thank you for keeping me straight, guys. Stampeding Kodo for some removal. Priestess of Elune, a lovely little heal and some damage as well. Temple Enforcer, buffing up my minions and some damage. Corehound and Molten Giant if we get that far. Right, so let us get into this game. What everyone has been waiting for. What is our strategy? So while we just wait for our random draw, let's take a look at the mana curve. Our mana curve is really, really heavily weighed, if we saw it just before we got removed, to turns 1, 2 and 3. Good things we have about our deck. We've got a lot of cards that potentially go very well with each other, and we've got a reasonable spread, and we've got a bit of a... I can see the strategy coming together a bit. We get a lot of good early game drops, we can put a lot of pressure on. It's not quite a rush. We've then got some survivability into the mid game. If we do not get the game pretty much sealed up, probably by mid to late game... Oh, a mage! That's going to be interesting. So, mage-wise, we know they will be casting spells. What are we going to do against a mage? Well, the Molten Giant I'm tempted to throw back. I just don't see how early that's going to come out. Soul Priest I'm tempted to keep because that will give me some removal against mage minions, but there's not loads. Okay, let's go back to our original theme, which was getting stuff out real early. I've got a Voodoo Doctor. I'm tempted to hang on to that Soul Priest. We've got 1 vote for Toss It All. It has all been tossed. Eric and you we trust. The first person to speak gets the call. Eric's decision is good. We like it. Shadow Gladness will sort us out with something hopefully, and of course a bunch of things could be quite interesting. There are mage minions that will be interesting. A Stone Tusk Boar comes straight out from our mage friend. Always nice in the arena to see all of the random cards, particularly if you've been grinding and grinding away on the ladder, just seeing some nice fresh combos. What have we got here? Well, we can coin into a Fairy Dragon and get some pressure on straight off the bat. The Voodoo Doctor's heal can heal one of our minions. I'm going to go crazy. There's a little bit of lag today, and I think that's just because there's a few things going on with the Blizzard login servers in general. Brightwing! Brightwing is being featured in Blizzard's upcoming MOBA, multiplayer, massively online battle arena. League of Legends or Dota, if you're not familiar with the acronym MOBA. Heroes of the Storm, which I'd love, oh so love to get in on the technical alpha for, but they are rare as hen's teeth, and I think they may not have extended the actual invites to Europe on a wider scale yet. There do seem to be more invites coming in to America at the moment. If you're in America, congrats to you. A straight up zap for the spell damage, and our mage here is just charging away. So if our mage has got a strategy, is he going to be flying on in and just simply trying to cut me into pieces with pyroblasts, with big damage spells? Other people in the chat really wanting to see some goodness. I'm going to try and keep the tail under control. I'm also interested in going to restore health to my minion. An equally valid play there would have been to heal myself. However, I can heal what I want with my lesser heal. I'd quite like to keep this Fairy Dragon on the table in the early game, just because it will give me that nice 3 attack and chip damage. If I'd done the direct trade and not healed, bye bye Witch Doctor, that would have happened to my Fairy Dragon. So at least I can get 3 damage in with this guy. What can I do? Now this is strong. Turn 3 is going to be quite hard unless he drops a nasty, oh so nasty spell, which he could have on turn 4, to really be able to pressure me out. So in the absence of any other huge plays, I can heal up with Holy Nova in a couple of turns. I can Shadow Gladness next turn if I really want to. It might be interesting to hold that out. Frost Nova, interesting. He can only stall, although I can't attack. Oh, good play by the mage. So much pain. He manages to remove it with a nice Frost Nova into Ice Lance, so we can see a bit. Maybe our friend here, Zloody999, has drafted a bit of control. Well, for the 4-drop, there's nothing really for me to heal apart from myself. I'm going to test my luck, throw down my Acolyte of Pain that you guys picked. Thank you very much. Let's try and get some draw power. I would like to start drawing stuff. So soon, pretty please. Oh my goodness, I just did not attack. I'm pretty sure I didn't attack. It's called Failcraft for a reason. We all make very, very silly mistakes, especially me. Okay, that's a solid drop. We've got an Azure Drake out now, so 3 less chip damage. Oh so pain. What can we do? Well, Holy Nova will help us chip him down. Either way we're going to get... Oh, yep, no, that's good. I was frozen. Good, it wasn't just me. Excellent stuff. So a couple of plays here. Now I could just drop some damage on him, or I could go for a direct trade, and it's an expensive trade, but then he'll start slamming into me. The Acolyte of Pain really is maximised for damage the longer it stays on the board, so if I wipe it out in one go, I'll get to draw the card, versus putting some more pressure onto him. The tempo will go off me a little bit. The Nova, there's not huge amounts of points in the Nova, because I'm not going to get maximum AoE clearage. Sorry for the slow play. Any opinions, chat? It's probably going to be a bit late by the time this comes through. I'm going to play safe. Did my heal go through? Oh, just went through with the lag. So I'll trade, get a car. I've got a Grizzly. I can stick up a Taunt. They're a worse place. If I was really rushing and pressuring, I could have just pushed on and let him come to me and bring the pain. But let's see, he's a mana ahead of me. Ooh, a Sorcerer's Apprentice dropping 1 less for his spells. A lovely little card for Mage in the draft situation. So in Arena, a secret goes down. We did a daily episode not too long ago about dealing with secrets, so I'm not proud, I can't necessarily remember them all the time. I'm going to bring up Mage secrets. And what could he have? Well, this is Arena, he could have anything, but we can try and work it out in sequence. Attack face! I like the idea of attack face. Shadow Madness I would prefer only to use. I'd probably like to use that on the Sorcerer's Apprentice and remove it. There's nothing that will let me remove that bar of Holy Nova at this point. I feel that Holy Nova would be a bit of a waste just to remove a minion, do 2 and restore 2. I can put him under some pressure, he may not have removal. I'm actually going to go with the Fen Creeper here, get a nice big tank out in the absence of any other huge plays. I'm hoping that he's going to drop some more minions, and then I can do a 2-for-1 with my Shadow Gladness, grab the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and do a bit of attackage. While we wait for a little bit of lag to go through. Hello, end turn button. It's not just me being slow today. Oh, I'm hoping that Battle.net is not gone.
I don't have enough mana.
End turn. Oh, we wait to see if the turn is ending or not. Eric brings up in the chat, what could he have? A Vaporize, Counterspell, Ice Barrier, or a block? Well, that's actually a very good point. By playing the minion, we've ruled out it being anything such as Mirror Entity, for example. When I play that minion, it would have triggered the Mirror Entity. Sorry guys! On the bright side, you guys are still seeing the stream. On the flip side, it feels as though either our friend's Lodi has managed to lag out, or very sadly, we are having a few issues with Battle.net. So it normally will actually lock you out. In the meantime, let's explore the delights of the Pandaren Hearthstone board. So if we look at the top, I can play with my Chinese lantern. Just for a little bit of shaking. I can turn that light on and off. It's got a nice satisfying gold sound. You can play with the kites, and of course you tap this temple enough, the kite flies off. There's the top right left corner of the board. I do just like these little details. Let's bang on the drum in the bottom corner. And this one I find particularly fun. You try and get rid of all of the flowers. Some of them take multiple clicks. You can probably hear my clicking away on the microphone, but they all grow back. There's no way that you can get rid of them all. I don't think you can be quick enough to get rid of them all. There you go, we prove the point there. You can squash some pumpkins, and I think that's all in the bottom right hand corner, but those grow back as well. Okay, I did not know that. You can click the water pump and they will grow back. And you can not only make the water wheel move faster, open the door. I thought there was something else in this corner. Maybe it's just me. Right guys, I think to make sure that we keep this going, I'm going to have to bid adieu to this game, which is a shame. Would have been interesting to see how it turned out. Let's quickly just do a quick reboot of Battle.net in terms of